Today is March 9th, 2023. My name is Jo Reingold, interviewing Jeff Rasansky, who is the past president of the Jewish Federation of Greater Dallas. Good morning, Jeff. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Sure. Listen, we want to know, what was your involvement in some things in the Jewish community prior to your being involved in being president of the Federation?
I'm not sure where you want me to start, but I can never remember a time where I was not involved in the Jewish community. Growing up 3 blocks from the JCC, I grew up, walking and riding my bike to the JCC almost every day. My first job was at the JCC as a lifeguard at the pool, was very active and engaged in BDYO, which I think is when I first met you, Jo.
Yes.
I'm afraid to say how many years ago. But was actively involved in BBYO, went to University of Texas and became involved in ZBT and Jewish life on campus. And then really as an adult after law school, I was engaged in almost, every part of the Jewish community that I could be a part of. I started out at the synagogue at Shereth Israel and became a president of Shereth Israel. I sat on Jewish Family Service, the Dallas Holocaust Board, the JCC board, the Federation board for many, many years. And, I think, I don't think there was a Jewish organization that I wasn't involved in at some point in time.
Okay, fabulous. So what was the Federation's title? What was its official name when you were president?
The official name was the Jewish Federation of Greater Dallas, but when I came on, we were still kind of acting independently. I remember our old brown and orange stationery that was kind of yucky, and really we really made a concerted effort to become really affiliated with our national organization, the Jewish Federations of North America, and readopted our logo to match their logo. And I think at that point in time really was a turning point as to how we started identifying ourselves as part of a national movement and national campaign.
And what years did you serve?
I served between 2011 and 2013.
Okay. And as board chair, was it chair or president at that time? What was it?
At that point in time, it had become board chair.
Okay, that's what I thought. And what were some of your priorities that you yourself wanted to accomplish at that point?
That's a pretty broad question, but I think like most of us who step into this role, I think one of our, priorities were looking at our campaign success and focusing our efforts on major gift stewardship and cultivation of new major donors and acquisition of new donors. We also had a priority of looking at our financial resources to better educate our constituents about the value proposition that the Federation brought to the table and how we build a more vibrant Jewish community to maximize the amount of our allocable dollars. We also focused on our relationship with Israel and wanted to create experiences in the Western Galilee region that had become kind of stagnant in the past. We wanted to take a community scan and to do a needs assessment of the community, which had never been done in the Dallas Jewish community. I think many, many years ago, prior to my involvement, there was a demographic study just to kind of figure out how many Jews there were in Dallas, but this was much more encompassing, trying to get everybody together from all of our partner agencies and synagogues and Dallas Jewish institutions about really surveying the needs and how we were interacting with our community. We also worked with our programming departments because we wanted to use those as engagements and on-ramps for the federations and our constituents by focusing more efforts in our programming departments. And then I would say one of the biggest things that we wanted to accomplish was to re-engage and highlight the importance of women's philanthropy.
Very good. Can you think of, besides the things you just mentioned, any other challenges that you posed when you were there, and how did you deal with those?
There's always challenges in everything that we do at the Federation, but I think that when we came in, we had a new CEO, and we really wanted to focus on, certainly standing on the shoulders of greatness, because there were so many wonderful, wonderful leaders who really built the Federation that came, several years before us, 2 years before us, and then 100 years before us. And I think Jewish philanthropy in Dallas always focused on a shared commitment of coming together and seeing how we could make changes in Dallas and around the world. But we also knew that our campaign had remained flat for several years. And really, with inflation, we had not seen a lot of movement in the dollars that we had raised over, the 10 or 20 or 30 years prior to my involvement or becoming chair. So we needed to figure out a way to engage with our donors differently, to find new donors, and to figure out how we wanted to hold ourselves more accountable and build relationships with our donors, connecting their passions to their philanthropy, which had not been done in the past.
Tell me a little bit more specifically, who was the new CEO and how did you interact with that person?
The new CEO at that time was Susan Kramer, and we had Bradley Lay as well. And our interaction was terrific. We had a great, lay professional partnership. And I think part of the strength of what we were able to accomplish really revolved around how well, we knew our different roles and functions and how we interacted.
Okay. One of the questions is about your relationship, the Federation, with synagogues and temples, but I want to also add to that your relationship with other Jewish organizations in the city. How do you feel Federation did with all those?
I think we did great. We had quarterly meetings with all of our agencies. Every major decision that we made with respect to allocating dollars, we did in consultation with our agencies, and we wanted to ensure that we were providing opportunities and leadership development for everything that and everybody that we were working with. With respect to our synagogues, we knew that the congregations were really better equipped than the Federation to connect with Jews who cared and were passionate about Jewish learning, Jewish values, and Jewish social action. And it was important to establish relationships with our congregational rabbis and their cohorts, as well as their congregants.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about the relationship with Dallas and Israel, and specifically the Western Galilee Project. What did you envision would happen there?
Can we go back to the synagogue relationship?
Sure, absolutely.
We really initiated a first of a kind program of partnering with synagogues and using the resources of the senior rabbis at the synagogues. We created a wonderful Jewish Learning Institute where we partnered with the Hartman Institute in Israel and created a study program for 20 congregants from each of the major synagogues that met over a 9-month period with a beginning session and end session for all of the people that participated. That was ended up being a wonderful program because it allowed access to rabbis that most congregants don't have, because they were, if you're a member of Shereth Israel, they got to interact with Rabbi Stern and Rabbi Weinberg and Rabbi Paley, Rabbi Pearl, and a lot of different rabbis that typically they would not interact with. So that was a great program and showed our commitment to working with our synagogues.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. So now, just if you would expand a bit about your project in Israel and how that relates to, and how people looked upon it here.
Um, when I became board chair, the Federation was part of I think it was called the Central Area Consortium, uh, and Partnership Together, which really was not working for the Dallas community. We had invested millions of dollars into this consortium project with different federations across the Southwest, and we did not really see a return on our money. So we really wanted to transition to an independent partnership with Western Galilee region as part of the Partnership Together, or P2K, which I think at that time it was formerly known as P2K, then became Partnership Together, if I'm not mistaken. But we entered into a separation agreement with the consortium and then started funding our own allocations to our partnership region, really focused on a bunch of different areas, including education, business to business relationships, adventure tourism and travel, arts and culture, and civic engagement. And through that initiative, we hired a person who was focused really on, maintaining those relationships. We hired a 3/4 part-time person in the Western Galilee that was employed by the Federation, which was a first for us. We worked with a marketing company to help us try to strategize and implement certain programs that touched upon the areas that I just mentioned, in education and business to business and those things. I think at the end of my term, we had over 300 people that traveled either in groups or individually going to Israel, who we would reach out to ensure that they had an experience in the Western Galilee, and it was very successful.
As far as I know, some of those things are continuing on now to this day. They make sure that people get to see that region, don't they?
Absolutely.
They go, yeah. Okay. Think of some other changes if you can think of any other experiences that you had in Federation, changes that you saw under your tenure.
Look, change is a tough word. I think that, the Federation is a aircraft carrier and it's difficult to make sharp turns. I think that one thing that I learned as being chair of the Federation is that meaningful change takes time and requires constancy to purpose. And it's not an event, it's an evolving process. But I think that at times we learned that, we needed to have a new paradigm of how we connected with our donors. We knew that there had been a decrease in the number of donors over many, many years, and donors have become more sophisticated. They want to see the impact of what their dollars are specifically doing, and they want to connect their passions to the dollars that they give philanthropically. So we really tried to create a new way of giving, certainly not interfering with an annual campaign gift, but providing different opportunities for people to give above and beyond their annual gift in supplemental giving, where they could direct their dollars to specific types of programs.
You've touched upon some wonderful things, but can you think of something that you are the most proud of during your time at Federation?
There are several things that I'm most proud of. One was really the creation and the development of the Jewish Women's Philanthropy Board. We learned that moms and women are the people who take care of the kids at home, drive change at home, are responsible for Jewish education, and their dollars, quite frankly, match, if not exceed, philanthropy of what the men do. So it became very important to engage women individually as opposed to family gifts, and for women to have their voices heard, and for women to make their own gift, and to ensure that they were engaging with Federation at a level that absolutely was required. The other thing that I'm quite proud of is the way that we re-engaged with our young families and younger constituents. We had wonderful programmings through Network, Younger Set, Pillars, leadership development groups. But it was kind of, they didn't interact together, those different groups. So we created a new young adult division that had its own leadership with its own board and were responsible for their own programming. And we really saw huge success with the numbers of people that we were able to place on the young leadership cabinet of the National Federation. We were very successful in talking about some of those supplemental giving opportunities of reaching out to philanthropists to start the Wexner program in Dallas, which is the first time that it had come to Dallas, and I'm not sure that it's been back since. That was an amazing program for 20 young adults to really become immersed in Jewish education and Jewish life and Jewish philanthropy. And then we also did the community scan that we spoke about, where we engaged with 50 different agencies across the community and were able to reach out to more than 60,000 individuals by various methods. And we got a tremendous response that really helped us identify what our needs were in the community, what people thought about the Federation, how they wanted to become engaged, and how they wanted to see their dollars allocated.
I remember that. It was a very, very important learning tool for everybody. So before we conclude, Jeff, is there anything else that you would like to add? Let us know about, tell us about.
Other than the fact that these 2 years that I spent as board chair were probably 2 of the best years of my life. Growing up Jewish in Dallas and taking advantage of everything that the Jewish community gave us, this really provided me a way to give back and really provided me many learning opportunities about how the collective of all of us is much greater than any one individual. And, when we put our hearts and minds and brains together, there's nothing really that we can't accomplish.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. We all do. And your tenure at the Federation was wonderful. And this is great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jo.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thanks.